All right. Welcome to Windows Tablets in the Real World, Myths Debunked and Lessons Learned. My name is Zach Hughes. I am, a little bit about me, I am the Infrastructure and Operations Manager at RCIS at Wells Fargo. I have been in the IT industry for about 14 years. I started off in end-user computing. I love end-user computing. I started off doing NT4 workstation, rolling out apps and rolling out operating systems and doing all that automation around that. From that point, I became a Citrix metaframe presentation server Zen app guy. Did that for quite a period of time, and I know I'm in good company. So from there, I went into application server hosting. Did kind of added web to the mix, and I've been doing some networking and. Eventually, I kind of like being the smartest guy in the room, but eventually realized that I couldn't keep that up and I was surrounded by lots of people smarter than me, so I got into management. And that's where I am today. I've been for the last 7 years or so, responsible for the infrastructure and operations for my group. But where I like to spend my time and my thoughts is right around strategic infrastructure. So I think this is a really interesting time for our industry, interesting time in the market, what's going on, especially with mobility, and we need to really focus in on doing the strategic things that are right for our business. So that's the kind of the context for this presentation. Well, I work at RCIS. RCIS stands for Rural Community Insurance Services. We are the nation's largest crop insurance provider. Crop insurance as in corn, wheat, soybeans. We provide insurance in all 50 states, over 120 crops. And there's about 2,000 folks in our organization, most of which are mobile. We kind of a uniqueness about our business is it's a very federally regulated business. We don't compete on price or product. We only compete on service and technology. So it kind of puts what we do in IT to be really important to the business, to differentiate us from our competitors. So that's what I do, and that's what RCIS does, and that's kind of the context for the presentation. We are part of Wells Fargo. I'd like to mention that we are kind of part of the Wells Fargo family, but for the context of this, I want to mention that we run our own end-user computing, our own data center. So some of the things I talk about don't necessarily apply to the larger Wells Fargo company, but are more relevant to what we've done at RCIS. As a quick point of clarification, the thoughts and opinions in this presentation are my own. They don't necessarily reflect official policies or positions of Wells Fargo. But let's get to our agenda. So first of all, I want to talk about the post-PC era that we live in and what's going on in the industry. I want to talk about kind of defining the problem a little bit about what's wrong with Android and iOS and what are their limitations around providing enterprise mobility. I want to debunk the myths associated with Windows tablets. I want to talk about the Windows tablet advantage. And I talked about the fact that we've deployed Windows tablets at our company, but and I want to share some of those lessons learned that we learned, so you can avoid some of our mistakes. I want to talk about the Windows the product selection out there. What's out there in the market today, and what's coming in the future. I want to talk a little bit about smartphones in a Windows tablet world. This is mostly about tablets, but we'll touch a little bit on smartphones. And some future considerations, and a little bit about BYOD and some next steps. All right, so welcome to the post-PC era, right? Steve Jobs launched this a number of years ago. It caught on like wildfire. It's affected a lot of our industry. There's a lot of our day is filled with thoughts about the post-PC era, a vision of a world without PCs. Vendors have got on board with that, VMware, selling products and solutions for the post-PC era, right? Bloggers talked about the fact that it's over for Windows. IDC published this chart about the first quarter shipments of Windows PCs being the lowest ever, and this spelling doom for Windows PCs. Another nail in the coffin, another reason why we are post-PC. Gartner said, Microsoft is dead, Windows has expired, and Office has ceased to be. It's pretty, a lot of love from Gartner for Microsoft as usual. So, the whole industry is wrapped around a big funeral for Windows in the client. So I want to be careful that, so how is that working for you? You know, we all have Windows PCs in our environment. You know, there's a disconnect between what we see in the industry and how this is going on. I want to be careful not to be this guy. You know, a lot of folks could say, you know, the PC of today is really the mainframe of you know, years gone by, and you know, we're kind of clinging on to the PCs and traditional computing. You know, we're just the modern day era of this guy, right? But I wanted to share with you, I got a different opinion. I got the dissenting opinion. So what you hear from vendors, from bloggers, from the analysts a lot today is about, you know, the post-PC era. I believe there's a different future for Windows PCs, a different path we can take as end-user computing technologists for our business. So I'll present our experiences and you be the judge. So the consumerization of IT brought tablets into the enterprise. This was not necessarily our idea. Oftentimes executives brought the tablets in and, you know, gave them to IT and said, hey, hook this up to email. And you know, that wasn't difficult for us to do. And the executives were largely successful with that endeavor because, you know, let's face it, they don't use apps. They probably can do their entire job on an iPad, technically speaking. Now, based on that success, they might recommend them to the next tier down. And somewhere along the line, someone says laptop replacement. Again, this was not IT's idea, but all of a sudden, we've got this requirement or this job to replace laptops with iPads. Now, we can work really hard, put in some enterprise mobility management software, get some new productivity suites, find new versions of software that might be compatible, and if we work really hard, spend lots of time and money, we might get to 80% of those requirements. Meanwhile, since we haven't got to 100%, we've not replaced Windows, we've merely supplemented it. This is all about the user expectations. So if you give somebody a smartphone, if it makes calls, does email, surfs the web, by and large, they're pretty satisfied with that. If it does apps and things of that sort, that's bonus. But if you give somebody a tablet, there's an expectation that this should be able to do everything that my laptop does. It's based on the screen size. This isn't necessarily a logical or reasonable assumption, but users make it anyway. And that drives our requirements, that drives the expectations that we need to fulfill. But that's just the users. We have other masters we must serve as well. Security, compliance, configuration management has their own set of requirements. And we might spend some more time and money trying to meet those requirements associated with their requirements to secure and do everything we need to do with these mobile tablets. And the solutions for that space are growing. The enterprise mobility management has only been around for 2 to 3 years. So there's a far cry from feature parity to what exists today in the Windows ecosystem. You know, someone from your legal counsel says, hey, you know what, I want you to do a legal discovery on that iPad. And what are you going to do? So the expectations and our abilities, there's a gap. We use Windows apps at our company. Does anyone else use Windows apps? Of course, we all use Windows apps, right? I had a conversation a couple years ago, back when iPads were really first kind of coming out, and I was thinking, hey, maybe we want to get these to work for our enterprise, and I kind of asked the ignorant question of my the lead developer, who's a peer of mine, who runs the development organization. I say, hey, you know, what it would take to kind of rewrite all these lines of business apps in Objective-C so we could run them on our iPads. I think that'd be a big win for the users, and kind of get us in the future, be a good thing for us to do. And he kind of looked at me like, dude, we got like millions of lines of code invested in these Windows apps. This is, I'm not even talking short term. This is not a good long-term solution either. What's invested in these Windows line of business applications is tremendous. But I started thinking, okay, let's put on my Citrix hat. Hey, you know what? I know how to remote Windows apps, right? We're Citrix people. This is what we do. Any app on any device, right? The truth of the matter is, Android tablets and iPads are not very good thin clients. Now, I know that there are solutions out there from VMware, from FrameHawk, from Citrix that make this a little bit better. I've actually used extensively the ZenApp Mobility Pack. It's actually pretty cool, but is at best kind of some window dressing. It doesn't work for everything, and it just kind of skins the interface a little bit to make it a little bit better. But you're dealing with apps that are designed for keyboard and mouse, and you're trying to operate them with your 10 greasy digits, and it just doesn't work. There's gestures and there's tricks in order to make it work, but and it's okay in a pinch. It's okay occasionally, but this is not a good primary end-user computing experience. So I don't really like container solutions. So container solutions kind of cropped up really recently when it came to Android and iOS. They didn't really exist in any kind of mass market way for Windows or BlackBerries. So this is kind of a retrofit for consumer devices. The reason I don't like them is they do two things. First of all, they intentionally break application compatibility, and second of all, there's an aspect of this that's a little bit bait and switch. Like for instance, the word might get around to, hey, sweet, we're getting iPads at work. All right, cool. I know what those are. My brother had one at Christmas, and I played with it, and I liked that. And then what IT provides is this, this other thing, right? It looks like an iPad. It's got the Apple logo on the back, but it's got this other interface that's unfamiliar, that's frankly not as good. We end up with this, native app replacements. So, on the left, we have what's good for users. On the right, we have what's good for the enterprise. All right? The two, you might disagree with me, but I believe these are mutually exclusive. We take what was designed to be excellent user interface for consumers, and we replace it with something that's not good for the users, but it's good for us as IT administrators, and it frustrates the users, because it's not what they're expecting. It's a bait and switch. Another way of looking at this, so let's just say that in the Windows world, you went to you have BYOD for computers. You get your Best Buy laptop. It's got Office 2013 on it, and you bring it into the office, and IT says, hey, you know what? It's great that you got Office 2013 on that thing, but you know what? Our corporate solution, and you can use that for your personal email, but for our corporate solution is Outlook Express. And that's kind of how I feel about native app replacements. They're not really keeping pace with what's natively there, and it's a bit of a bait and switch. So our requirements look like this. I want a productivity suite like Microsoft Office. I want manageability like Active Directory, GPOs, and SCCM. I want security and compliance features like the existing third-party Windows ecosystem. I want data access like file servers and SharePoint. I want to be able to use a USB flash drive. I want to be able to print to a printer that's more than a year old. It's kind of tricky. Admit it. I want Windows on something that looks like an iPad. Right? Look at the requirements. And here's the spirit of this. I want the new stuff without having to give up the old stuff. How true is that? We do this exchange where it's like, okay, in order to get my touch optimization, my ultra mobility, my modern interfaces, we got to ditch everything's built upon, everything that everybody's used to. I can't access the files on my T drive. I can't use my USB flash drives anymore. It's a big jump for users. As technologists, it might be, it's easy for us. But it kind of really messes with that gradual approach. So the solution, as you may have guessed, is of course Windows tablets. You knew that before you came in here. But we're not excited about Windows tablets because we believe some myths. I'm going to debunk the myths associated with Windows tablets. First of all, myth number 1. Windows tablets equals the Microsoft Surface. What I mean by that is when the Microsoft Surface came out, due to the consumerization of IT, we knew about it. It was well advertised. So, doing our jobs, we got one for our lab, played with it, realized it sucks, and moved on. And we went back to doing things the old way or the new way. Now, I agree with a lot of the reviews associated with the Windows Surface, or the Microsoft Surface. I don't think it's a serious optimal business platform. But there are other choices out there. But they haven't been explored. Instead, we go back to either doing things the old way with the old full-blown Windows laptops, or we go back to doing our iPads and Android tablets with enterprise mobility management. But I believe there is a third way, a different way, and we'll get into some of those other product choices shortly. But for now, we're going to move on. Myth number 2 is that Windows 8 is a big, scary deal. So what you're looking at, of course, is the Windows 8 start screen, but this is the face of Windows 8. So a lot of people assume this is the operating system itself, but it's not. It's just the new start menu. Every version of Windows that's come out has had a new start menu. This is, of course, the most radical, the most extreme redesign. But to illustrate my point, how much time in your workday do you spend navigating the start menu? If I said 30 seconds, do you think that would be kind of a high guess? I mean, I don't care how bad it is. This is like 30 seconds of your day and 30 seconds of your user's day. I don't think this should make or break the OS. There's actually a lot of optimizations, some other touch optimizations, of course, as well, that make Windows 8 a great choice for tablets. But we get hung up on this. Myth number 3, this is starting to get to the important stuff here. Windows 7 is not touch capable. This is a big myth. To prove that, I pre-recorded a demo here of an intentionally old piece of hardware running Windows 7. So this is a Samsung Series 7 slate. This came out more than 2 years ago, pre-Windows 8 launch. And this is running the software and drivers that really came out of the box. So take a look. So you got the old-fashioned Windows 7 start menu, the old-fashioned Windows 7 on-screen keyboard. You got Samsung ships with a camera app for manipulating the front and rear-facing camera, where it looks a lot like iOS. It's got a photo app for scrolling through your pictures with your fingers. All touch optimized. You got this task launcher. It's an overlay for the Windows interface to make your icons kind of work like an iPad. You can launch Internet Explorer. You can pinch zoom and pan on Internet Explorer natively. Bring up my on-screen keyboard. Go to Google Maps. That instantly knows where I'm located. And I can pinch zoom right on Google Maps and pan around without any plugins, extra drivers. This is just Windows 7. i.e., Windows 7 is a lot more touch capable than you may have thought. Go ahead.
Are those still available?
You bet. Yep. You can buy one today. They're deprecated. There's newer ones out there, but I think you can still buy the Series 7. So Windows 7 is a lot more touch capable than you thought. And basically, to go back to the previous myth about Windows 8, say you completely disagree with me, and Windows 8 is not a big deal. Say it is a huge deal for you. We're light years away from getting ready for Windows 8. A lot of us are still trying to get off XP, right? So, not being ready for Windows 8 is not a reason to not go to tablets. These tablets run Windows 7 amazingly well. Myth number 4, this is my pick 2 triangle. Windows tablets are heavy, slow, and have terrible battery life. And the pick 2 triangle works like this. I might find a tablet that's, light and fast, but it's going to have terrible battery life, like an hour or two. Or I might find one that's fast and has great battery life, but it's going to be heavy as a brick. Or I might find one that's got great battery life and is light, but it's going to be slow as a dog. The truth is, you can find a 28-ounce tablet with a Core i5 processor running with 8 hours of battery life on several different products. So I took the pick 2 triangle and I picked all 3. So, it's myth number 4. Myth number 5 is, Windows takes forever to boot. I hear this a lot from my field folks. It's like, I don't want Windows. It takes forever to boot. It takes like a half hour. They always exaggerate, right? It takes like a half hour for me to boot my machine and log into Windows. We all have heard that. It's like, I want instant on. I want, iPads and Android, they're instant on. This is kind of a legacy problem. This is solved really with the advent of the SSD. Ever since SSDs and Ultrabooks have been out, Windows has been able to boot in 5 seconds and resume from sleep in 1 second. This is no longer the truth. Myth number 6, that Windows tablets are too expensive. Now, I shot high on this slide. You can certainly get Windows tablets that are cheaper than this, but I thought I'd shoot for the high end. Windows tablets, they cost a lot if you want to get a really great one. And iPads, sure, they're $500, $900 depending on your options. And sure, that looks a lot more expensive. But that's not the whole equation. Remember, iPads are supplementary devices. They don't replace Windows. So you have to add in your EMM, which isn't cheap, and you still have Windows. So Windows is on both sides of the equation. So you could take your iPad budget, your EMM budget, invest it in some nice Windows tablets, and have money left over. Myth number 7 is Windows tablet technology isn't there yet. Prior to Windows 8, I heard a lot about Windows tablets saying, you know what, they're getting there, they're getting better, they're just not there yet. Let's wait for Windows 8. When Windows 8 comes out, there's going to be a whole new crop of devices that they're going to come out. Those will be the ones we're going to want to look at. Of course, that came and went. Next generation of Intel processors. When Haswell comes out, that's going to produce a whole new crop of devices. Man, when those things come out, those are going to be good, and we'll look at those. So the truth is, back to my demo a couple slides ago, Windows tablets, high-quality Windows tablets, been out for more than 2 years. The time is now. Myth number 8 is Windows isn't a true mobile experience. I put that in air quotes because that's in the eye of the beholder. What do people mean by mobile experience? It's kind of a funny term. And I got this picture on the screen because it's the weirdest looking Windows tablet I could find. Because I think that's what people think of a little bit. So you know what? I want mobility, but that's not really what I had in mind. That's kind of weird. And that's what people think about when they think about Windows tablets. But let's break this myth down into a couple sections. First, let's talk about local devices. So first of all, any Windows tablet you get nowadays is going to have 3G, 4G onboard cellular data with personal hotspot capability. That's a given. Those are available. You get a front and rear facing camera. You get Bluetooth and NFC. You have ambient light sensors, accelerometers and gyroscopes, geolocation, of course, and a magnetometer. This is, of course, the device that tells you where north is. Now, if you're like me and no one pronounced that word for you at first, you might have been like me and said, I think that's pronounced magnetometer, which is really helpful for telling you when Magneto is near. I can't think of a better device to have on my mobile tablet. But the point of this is that you've got complete local device feature parity. There's no gap. All these here on every Windows tablet. I mean, they're available. You don't have to get them, but they're available. As a side note, given the audience, I want to kind of pose a little food for thought question. Who's going to client virtualize or remote all these devices? Now, I know that Citrix and VMware have, maybe remoted some of these, like the geolocation. But in the future, 5, 10 years from now, I think there's going to be more local devices on the client device or less. I think this is just going to explode. I think our client devices are going to become more and more intelligent with more and more sensors of the environment. It just kind of begs the question to me is like, we chased our tail a little bit with client virtualization and remoting. And are those technologies going to be able to keep up with this? I think the future very well be native. So back to our myth. It's a question without an answer, so just something to think about. Part 2 of Windows is not a mobile experience is that Windows does not fit into the box of things that have grown out of smartphones. So if you ask Apple or Google, the tablet is the evolution of the smartphone. If you ask Microsoft, the tablet is the evolution of the laptop. Now, regardless of who you agree with, you have to admit that these two things are on an absolute collision course in terms of capability. And I'd argue that today, they're so similar in their terms of capability that it's not worth the penalty you pay for going with non-Windows. Myth number 9, Windows isn't cool. So we all know this picture. This has been influencing our culture for some time now. I don't want Windows. I want to be hip. I want to be cool. I want to be like Justin Long over here, right? So there's an element of truth to this, there's an element of business requirement to this, and I want to explain this a little bit, especially from your sales folks. So if they walk into they represent your company, they represent hopefully the technical advancedness of your company as well, and they walk into a client office, carrying an old plastic Windows laptop, it doesn't look very good, it doesn't reflect on the very well in the company. Especially if they're competitors, walking right after them, carrying a sleek new iPad. So our sales folks asked for iPads kind of somewhat for this reason, right? They wanted to look advanced. They wanted to look cool. We gave them Windows tablets, and there were no complaints. They shipped the Windows laptops back to us the next day. They felt cool. In fact, in a way, they felt cooler because they could run their apps. The competitors could not. So let's recap some of the advantages that Windows have over Android and iOS. It runs your apps natively. You have input variety. You can use a mouse if you need to. So earlier, I talked about the fact that Windows 7 is more touch capable than you think. Potentially even more important than that is that Windows 7 is mouse capable. All right, I know that sounds ridiculous, but seriously, from your end user standpoint, think about your end user standpoint. It's great to have a mouse when you need it and when you want it. Really, what's important is having both. I don't want to have touch and take away the mouse. Let's just add touch. You already know how to deploy it, manage it, secure it. You already know how to do this. You don't need to buy new management suites. You don't need new skills in your team. This is in your wheelhouse. You can deploy these tomorrow. Plugs right into everything you already know how to do and have been doing for years. It's just a different form factor. Enterprise Mobility Management, it's called Active Directory GPOs and SCCM. Now I know that's not in vogue. I know that's not what's popular nowadays to say, I got a bunch of domain-joined PCs, right? But you have to admit the power that's there, especially in terms of what EMM's trying to do. They're trying to do the same things. What's the difference between having a domain-joined PC, why is that negative, but having an EMM-joined iPad okay? We need some level of control and visibility, and we can use these tools to be self-service IT for our users. Users already know how to operate it. The point I want to make here is that if you give If I give my 3-year-old son and my iPad to play with, he knows how to operate it. It's super intuitive, right? We've all seen kids play with these devices. It's shocking how easily they can operate it. But you give that same device to somebody that's been working in your company for 20 years, operating your line of business software for 20 years, and all of a sudden everything's completely different. They're going to struggle. Windows has continuity with the past. It's easier for users to use. Users already know how to get their files on and off of it. You can get your stuff off the T drive if you need to, without having to learn the new file syncing product or process. It has USB ports. You can put a flash drive in it. You can print from it. The value proposition of Windows is it maintains continuity with the past. The slide here, the picture I've got up on screen is a screenshot of Office 2013 touch mode. If you see this, you can tell that the mouse mode and the touch mode are very, very similar. The touch mode basically just spreads things out a little bit more. Now, this interface has gotten a lot of criticism in the industry. I think it's genius, because how much training do you need to operate this? It's intuitive. If you know how to use Office already, using Office with your fingers is easy, compared to, say, learning a different productivity suite for a completely different operating system, starting from scratch. That might be better designed for touch, albeit, but still different. To the point I'd make on this additionally, let's just say, for instance, this approach that just takes the existing model and tweaks it a little bit, optimizes it slightly, but maintains tight continuity with the previous way of doing things. What if that had been done to the Windows Start menu? We'd probably all like it a little bit better, wouldn't we? But the fact of the matter is, Microsoft took completely two different approaches there, didn't they? Right? They revolutionized the Start menu to be perfectly touch optimized. Everyone hates it. They didn't capitalize on this principle of Windows, the value of Windows being continuity of the past, but the Office team figured it out. So the funny thing is, both these things are criticized heavily, probably by the same people. So it depends on which one you want, right? I like this method. All right, so let's get into some lessons learned from what we did. First of all, our use cases. So we've got 2 classes of mobile users. We've got sales folks, which are by and large like the sales folks from any other company. And we've got crop adjusters, which is a specialized workload. We've got over 1,000 of them. They're spread across the country, and they actually do the crop loss adjustment in the field, literally in the field. And they've got a specialized need in terms of there's a local claim adjustment app that is written for the tablet, where at the end of the claims adjustment process, the farmer needs to sign a form with a stylus. So that came into play in terms of some of the lessons we learned. So lesson learned number 1 is don't skimp on the hardware. You probably figured out how I was going here based on some of my previous slides about what I think about the cheap tablets. I like the beefier ones. Anything that's got an Atom inside it, I don't like. I've had bad experiences with the Atom processors. If you talk to the sales folks for the companies that make these tablets that have Atoms in them, they'll tell you, you know what, these things they're right for some people. They're optimized for certain workloads, right? Well, I will help you out. I will tell you what workload an Atom processor is optimized for. If you are doing anything other than running a digital photo frame, an Atom will not cut it. You need a core processor. Lesson learned number 2 is bundle the right peripherals for all of your use cases. So it's obvious sometimes to think about the mobile use case. I got a tablet, obviously it's going to be used in the field. Think about what I need to go along with that. But also, I want this to be able to be used in the home office or in the corporate office. So what things do I need to kind of ship with it in order to make it work in both scenarios very well? Giving someone just a tablet is sometimes not enough. So if you're getting a tablet that's just a piece of glass, you're going to need some sort of folio keyboard with it. You're going to want a physical keyboard of some kind with it. There's a lot out there, and you'll find one that can fit any number of tablets. Another thing to pick up on is make sure you get the right keyboard layout. A lot of these are kind of optimized for iOS or optimized for Android, but there's ones that are optimized for the Windows keyboard layout as well, in case you want function keys and stuff like that. So they're out there. Watch for those. Go Bluetooth if you can. One of the advantages I talked about with Windows tablets is that it has USB ports, but it doesn't have a lot of USB ports. So conserve USB ports by going Bluetooth. You don't want to plug up one of your USB ports permanently with your RF mouse, for instance, so get a Bluetooth mouse. For the office, you don't want to get a couple of these, maybe a bunch of these. You can get as many of these as you want. You can light up as many monitors with USB graphics adapters as you want. These things are really cool. They're plug and play. Well, not quite. You need drivers, but they work really nicely. They're very easy to configure. So you can have your full home office set up. Sometimes it's nice to have a hardwired gigabit Ethernet adapter. Most of these tablets do not come with one. So if you need one, you have to get it as a peripheral. USB hub is helpful to connect it all up. Now, if you choose a tablet in the Lenovo product line, they make this nice USB 3.0 dock that combines some of these things. You get two graphics adapters, onboard Ethernet, audio, and 5 USB ports, and it's very cost effective. It's cheaper than buying those things separately. It's kind of a nice little USB dock. Not the old school like laptop dock, it just plugs in with a USB cable. So lesson learned number 3 is that Bluetooth pairing is actually rocket science. So it's not enough to just bundle the right peripherals. Okay, so I got my tablet, I unboxed that, I got my little keyboard here, I got my Bluetooth mouse, I got all this stuff. Yeah, so they try to get started with all this, right? And, okay, so maybe this is my first touch device. Maybe it's the first time I've paired anything Bluetooth. So you have to walk through the it's a little bit of like a cart before the horse thing, right? So I got to pair the keyboard and mouse Bluetooth devices without using the keyboard and mouse, right? So I got to use touch to do that, and it can be done. It's just hard for the users. So the lesson we learned was not only bundle the right peripherals, but pair it before you ship it. Lesson learned number 4 is train the users to effectively manage battery life. So I talked before how tablets have ample battery life. They really do, but you can really stretch that far if you train the users to operate a little bit differently. I talked before how our users had been trained pretty much, not by us, but kind of by themselves, to leave their laptops on all the time because it took too long to reboot them or shut them off. So they left them on all the time. Well, we gave them Windows tablets, and these things boot in 5 seconds. So we had to kind of train them and say, hey, you want to make your battery life go further, shut it off when you're not using it, or put it to sleep when you're not using it. It's not as painful to get back to where you were. So it's a small training issue. If the stylus is not stowable, it will be lost on the first day, I might add. So now styluses might not be important to you. They were important for our particular use case. And that really drove some of our product selections because not all products have stowable styluses, but some do. So that kind of limited our choices a little bit. We went for ones that had stowable styluses because we went through a lot of styluses when they weren't stowable. And learn the difference between digitizer pens and capacitive touch styluses. It's different technologies. They work differently. We found, unbeknownst to us, that our apps behaved differently when used with a digitizer pen versus a capacitive touch stylus. Now we worked through it. It was just a couple of driver updates we needed to do, but it was kind of one of those kind of frustrating things we went through. So I thought I'd throw that out there. So if styluses are part of your use cases, make sure you kind of test them and understand how the different technologies work. Lesson learned number 7 is make sure you get the right mix of resolution and screen size. So most of our apps were designed for a particular minimum resolution, or assumed a minimum resolution. And some of these smaller tablets maybe only have a certain maximum resolution. You might have a mismatch there. We ran into that a little bit where one of our apps cut off at the bottom. So we found tablets that had a higher screen resolution, but then you kind of get things into the situation where stuff's hard to read. So screen size comes into play as well. Now, most Windows tablets are between 11 and 12 inches, but you can find certainly ones that are smaller and larger than that. So work through the balancing act of these options and see what works well for your apps and for your users. Lesson learned number 8 is pre-boot authentication for full disk encryption sometimes requires an actual physical keyboard. As in, if you use pre-boot authentication, you fire up your machine and it gives you the prompt for your passcode. and all you have is the on-screen keyboard or the Bluetooth keyboard, it might not work. Now this varies on model, this varies on encryption provider, but we ran into this a little bit. We got through it, and I just thought I'd throw that out there in case that's part of any of your environments, so you can be aware that you might run into this. Lesson learned number 9 is that Windows 7 does not necessarily need any touch UI enhancements. So we thought the Windows 7 isn't good enough of a touch operating system to ship by itself. We needed to help it along a little bit. So we bought the StarDock products, Fences and Object Dock. They're just UI tricks that are UI enhancements. They're kind of different skins for the interface to make it a little more touch friendly. Not dissimilar from a lot of what the remoting products do. And we also had the Samsung Touch Launcher, which is an overlay that is used for kind of launching your apps. We gave these out to the end users, and the funny thing is they didn't use them. They didn't even want them. They preferred using the familiar Windows interface over the touch-optimized overlays that we had come out with. So we abandoned them. Now your users might be different than ours, but that was our experience. It's kind of surprising. All right, so let's go through the product selection of what's out there for Windows tablets. First of all, the vendors. So there is no market analysis that I've seen for Windows tablets, so I made my own. First of all, the niche players: Microsoft, HP, Fujitsu, and Motion. These all make tablets. I personally don't feel that any of these products have a broad enough appeal to be considered, kind of general enterprise tablets, though, your particular situation might warrant one of these. In the center, we've got the followers: Dell, Toshiba, Asus. These would be fine selections for a lot of you. They're not the most innovative, but they're enterprise-grade Windows tablets, for sure. And then on the right, you have the leaders. Lenovo and Samsung, hands down, by far, have the best, the newest products out there in this space. If you want the best Windows tablet that money can buy, look no further than Lenovo and Samsung. You might be surprised with some of these things. You might not be used to seeing Samsung as an end-user computing device company, but they've come a long way over the last couple of years. They've really amped up their game. All right, let's go to the styles. So style number 1, I'll kind of consider these somewhat legacy Windows tablets or convertible laptops. These have been around more or less for more than 10 years, ever since XP tablet edition came out. You've had devices like this, and they've evolved and gotten better over the years. But this is basically a laptop with a hinge in the middle and a touchscreen. Nothing more, nothing less. One advantage you've got here is you've got removable components. You also have onboard Ethernet, onboard VGA, that kind of stuff, optical drive if you need it. It's your basic laptop. So you give those things up when you go to the other models, so just be aware of that. But that's not really what I mean by Windows tablets. What I mean by Windows tablets, of course, is something like this. The tablet only, the piece of glass. The Samsung Series 7 Slate, that's what we rolled out to our enterprise 2 years ago. I personally used it as my only end-user computing device for a long period of time, and it's a fantastic product. The Lenovo IdeaTab is another example. This is the tablet only. You're going to want, the disadvantages of this particular style is you're going to generally want to add some sort of folio keyboard to the mix. Style number 3 kind of enters a new category of machines, and I would consider these all convertible tablet ultrabooks. So this kind of, that main category applies to the rest of the styles, but so we're just going to go through different mechanisms. This is the Twist. On the left, you have the Lenovo Twist. This is very similar to what you've got for the convertible laptops. It looks the same, but you probably can't tell from the pictures, but these are way smaller and way lighter than the convertible laptops. So, but the mechanism is exactly the same. On the right, you've got the HP EliteBook Revolve. I have a bone to pick with the HP marketing department or whoever named this product. Everyone, I'm sure, in this room understands that this thing does not revolve, it rotates. Kind of a silly product name, if you ask me. The next style is the flip. So the Lenovo Yoga is an Ultrabook that more or less folds back on itself. The disadvantage of this particular model, or the advantage is that it clamshells. I like that. The disadvantage is when you're in tablet mode, you kind of leave the keyboard exposed, and it's kind of on the back. So if you're holding it, you're kind of maybe pressing keys, or if you bump it, that's kind of you're asking for keys to go flying. So, for that reason, I don't really like this one, but it's out there. The track hinge is a mechanism where the Ultrabook lays flat and then the screen slides over the keyboard, protecting the keyboard so you don't have the problem I mentioned previously, but you always have the screen exposed. This model does not clamshell. The dual screen Asus Tai Chi is pretty cool. You've got two touch screens on either side of the lid. It's an interesting idea, but you're always going to have kind of one screen exposed. So if you're uncomfortable with that, you're going to need like a sleeve or some sort of cover for it. The Dell XPS 12 is a nice machine. This solves a lot of the problems of the previous ones. This clamshells covering both the screen and the keyboard, or when it goes into tablet mode, it kind of also keeps the keyboard protected. The only disadvantage of this particular model is that you kind of always have the girth of the keyboard with it, so it's a little heavier, a little thicker when you're in tablet mode. But Dell actually has had this mechanism for a number of years. The first product I saw this come out in was called the Dell Duo. That was a product based on the Atom processor. It was really slow. I didn't like it at all. This one is actually based on the core processors, the Intel core processors. Much faster, much nicer. This is a great product. There's an advertisement for this particular device that I found kind of funny. It says, "Put the top down and relax," and there's no way you'll be able to read the fine print there from where you're sitting, so I'll blow it up here. It says, "It's business in the front and party in the back." So I just thought that was absolutely hilarious. So if you live in the part of the country where like mullets are still in style, this is the tablet for you, man. So I just got a kick out of that, so I had to share that with you. But style number 8 is the split. I feel that this is the future of Windows tablets. These will become more and more popular. There'll be more and more models that come out like this. This is going to get copied a lot. The Lenovo Helix and the Samsung Active Smart PC are examples of this. This is basically an Ultrabook where all the intelligence is in the top half, and you can clamshell the thing to protect the screen and the keyboard. You can drop the keyboard off and have a really light tablet versus the previous one where you kind of always had to have the keyboard with you. So this is nice. The one advantage, there's a couple of advantages of the Lenovo over the Samsung, but the significant one that I'll mention is that the Lenovo has extra battery cells in the keyboard, so you can get even more battery life out of it when it's put together. And you get the real full keyboard experience. So Intel calls these things 2-in-1s. I would consider them like 3-in-1s. They're powerful enough to be your desktop, your laptop, and your tablet. It's one device. And you can have the same experience, your users can have the same experience, whether they're in the office, on the road using it as a laptop, or using it as a tablet. You got the same apps, the same OS in each one of them. So I actually am presenting from the Lenovo Helix right now. So if you want to see it afterwards, come check it out. All right, so let's change topics a little bit. We'll talk about smartphones in a Windows tablet world. So you know that we are big fans of Microsoft here at RCIS. So what do we use for smartphones? Maybe we are a Windows Phone shop. Well, or maybe since we're so in love with enterprise technology and hate consumer technology, we're BlackBerries. Or maybe we got iPhones or Androids. Well, I'll tell you that we are an iPhone shop. We used to have BlackBerries like everybody else. And frankly, if BlackBerry had undergone their recent renovation, their recent revolution, like 4 years ago when we needed them to. We might still be on BlackBerry, but frankly, they obviously, everyone knows they dropped the ball. We had to move on to something better. We felt the next best solution was iPhones, so we have iPhones. But I want to talk about this in terms of companion strategy, and I think this is kind of a unique concept. I haven't heard much about this at this conference, but you know, we talk about you know, the functionality we need to bring to iOS, or the functionality we need to bring to Android. You know, I think if you got a really strong Windows tablet strategy, it lessens the burden on what you need to do with a smartphone. In other words, you can be choosy about what workloads you put on what device. I'll give you an example of what we've done in our company. So I talked to you before about the fact that we have this on-screen signing app. The big, heavy workload of the claims adjustment, it's done on the Windows tablet. That we never deport that to anything. Now, we did write a little app for the iPhones. We gave iPhones to our crop adjusters. Now, previous to that, we had dumb phones, GPSs, and digital cameras deployed out to our crop adjusters, right? We gave them 3 devices. Now, anyone could come to the same conclusion we did. It's like, hey, well, that's stupid. Let's give them smartphones. You know, kill 3 birds with 1 stone. But we went one step even further. Our dev team wrote a really simple, really light app that kind of, you know, used the camera to take pictures. It captured the geolocation, the direction you're facing, and automatically linked it with the policy information of the claim you're working. So when you kind of upload that to the tablet, it's automatically associated. It's a big time saver, very easy to use. We didn't have to rewrite any of the massive logic associated with the claims adjustment app. We just made this tiny little Objective-C app that you know, automated the camera and a couple of other things. So that's what I mean by, you know, having a good companion strategy. Rather than trying to deliver all your enterprise functionality on your smartphone, if you've got everything you need right next to you on your ultra-mobile Windows tablet, it takes some of the work out of the enterprise mobility management you need to do for your smartphones. You'd be more selective about what workloads you put on what device. All right, that's enough about smartphones. The future, Windows 8.1 is just around the corner. I'm pretty excited about Windows 8.1. As most of you guys probably realize, it's the main benefits of Windows 8.1 is it's more similar to Windows 7 than Windows 8.0 is. So, kind of back to that value proposition of Windows being continuity with the past, you've got something that kind of makes that easier coming up. So I'm excited about that. We'll see how that looks and how that works for us, but I think that's good news for the industry. Even more important is Intel Haswell. This is the code name for the 4th gen core processor line. It's actually out now, but it's not really in any devices yet. So I think you could probably get the proc, but you're not going to be able to buy any products that actually have this in it yet. That's coming later on.
Is that?
Yeah.
My shop just ordered a Dell XPS 12 and Haswell.
Does. Awesome. I stand corrected then. That must have been.
That's the only one we could find, though.
Sweet. That's pretty recent. So I knew that they're going to come out. So that's great. Okay. So I stand corrected. You can get devices that have Intel Haswell. You're going to get a lot more. One of the cool things about this that I've read is that this has the potential, due to the different power draw and the cooling requirements, to potentially produce fanless designs. So with this processor, what I've read, I haven't seen any products that do this, but the potential is there to have fanless tablets. So you could have a Windows tablet with a core processor in it, i5, i7, with that's the exact same shape, size, weight, thickness as an iPad today. So that's exciting. The thing I wanted to point out about this is the fact that we talk about Microsoft competing with Apple and Google a lot. What I think is potentially even more important is the fact that Intel is competing with the ARM market. They are aware of what is going on with all these iPads and Androids, and they're trying to do something about it. The answer is Haswell, and more developments that are coming soon. So this is the reason why we're starting to see all these devices come up. It's because of Intel. So I think it's pretty cool. Some thoughts about BYOD. If this is the way our users feel, the tech we're giving them must be pretty awful. Now, I know that the consumerization of IT has led to the surpass of enterprise IT, but seriously, what are we giving our end users to do their jobs with? Another way of looking at this is, all of our end users, of course, have day jobs. They do accounting or whatever else they do. And if they can, on top of doing that, do our jobs, being the technologist, pick out better technology solutions than we can, then we have failed. The point I'm making is that our end users are only really aware of what's advertised to them via the consumerization of IT stuff, consumer devices. They're not aware of that whole slide list of products that are out there. It's our jobs as the end user computing technologists to look at these products, to get them in-house, get them into our lab, show the end users. That's not going to happen with BYOD. We can provide better tech for the business than BYOD can. It's my opinion, obviously. Lots of other people have different opinions on that topic. Remember, this is the consumerization of IT, not the enterprisation of consumer devices. What I mean by that is we can spend our time retrofitting consumer devices, or we can take cues from the consumerization trends in the marketplace and apply them to our enterprise offerings. So what do we do about this? Consumerization of IT is not going away. How do we adapt to this? The way we do it is with rapid prototyping. What I mean by that is jump in now. The water's warm, don't wait. If your device certification process takes 6 months, then you're doing something wrong. Seriously. With SCCM and driverless images, we should be able to take these devices, get our corporate image on them in a matter of hours, do some lab testing and get them in the hands of the users. We need to get comfortable with rapid prototyping. Try something, throw it against the wall, see if it sticks. Don't agonize over finding the perfect product right now because it's going to be obsolete and replaced with something better in 2 months anyway. Just pick something and get it out there and get some feedback. That's how we learned about the stylus issue. That's how we learned about the screen resolution issue, is by getting devices out there in the field. Listen to the users and adapt. An iterative approach is fine. What I mean by that is, say you love the Helix I've got up here. Don't buy 10,000 of them and sit on them for 5 years. Learn to be comfortable with having a lot of devices out there. Now, I know that's not comfortable for a lot of us in end-user computing. We like to have, a certain small number of units out there. It makes it easy for us to support. But if you kind of flip it on the other side, with BYOD, you've got zero control, and you got billions of different kinds of devices out there. At least with this way, it's a little bit more controlled. But I think we need to adapt our processes to allow for this, because the devices are coming out very fast. So in conclusion, Android tablets and iPads are seriously lacking in their enterprise mobility features. Windows tablets have a distinct advantage. We debunked the myths, and we learned some lessons. We surveyed the landscape of available products. We talked about the future. The bottom line is, Windows tablets are a compelling alternative to Android tablets and iPads for enterprise mobility. You have a true laptop replacement. It's cost-effective. There's continuity for IT, management, and the users. Sometimes we think too much about what's good for IT and not enough about what's good for the users. There's no shortage of mobile experience features. Don't wait for Windows 8X. You can roll Windows 7 today. I know this is a little bizarre, but seriously, I know a lot of us aren't ready for Windows 8. That's okay. Windows 7 works awesome on these devices. It's kind of a final thought. This is a quote from Henry Ford. If I asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. I feel like we are somewhat in this mode with consumerization of IT. You know, people are asking for iPads, and I'd say let's take that request and get to what they're really looking for and give them something better. When they ask for iPads, give them Windows tablets. They're going to like it better. You'll be happier. You'll save money and have more productive enterprise. Thanks for coming. I can take questions. Go ahead.
Hey, Zach, one of your debunked myths was that you don't need EMM necessarily with a Windows tablet. How would analysts such as Gartner feel about that? Would they agree?
The question is, you don't need EMM with Windows tablets. Would Gartner agree? I would say that there is potentially EMM for the consumer Windows tablets, like you know, the Surface RT, things like that. You would find EMM plugins for that. I would suggest no, you don't need that. EMM is a substitute for the management that you get natively with Windows. So there's really no need for it unless you plan on kind of divorcing that Windows tablet from your environment. So I guess you might want EMM if you don't plan on domain joining it, I guess, or having it part of your SCCM infrastructure. But if you're going to have it as part of your domain and part of your SCCM infrastructure, I don't see any advantage to using EMM with it. As far as what Gartner would say about that, I'm not sure.
So are you suggesting that Windows could secure the device, apps, content, as well as some of the leaders out there, such as mobile?
When it comes to the mobile application management, I would suggest that what we can do with SCCM or other things in the Windows ecosystem today, whether it be app virtualization, app isolation, there's a couple of different things. Yeah, I would say you might not be able to do everything you're talking about within you know, the Microsoft stack, but certainly within the Windows ecosystem. I would expect you'd have more than feature parity with what goes on with EMM. I haven't gone head-to-head on that with down to the detail level of Mobile Iron, but I believe you would find it. Yeah?
Did you look at the Surface Pro at all?
Yeah, we did look. The question was, did we look at the Surface Pro? And we did look at the Surface Pro, but not too closely. The problems with the Surface Pro is you know, you really need a surface to operate it. It doesn't work in your lap. And you know, we found just kind of with our mobile needs, there's just better products out there. It's just, you know, even the minute it was out, it was like there were already better products out there from Lenovo, Dell, and Samsung. So we didn't look too hard at it. Go ahead.
I was wondering on the disk encryption.
Yeah.
Do you solve that problem? And also, do you have things like, do you have like remote kill or time-based lockout for the desktops? Presumably, you have a lot of valuable data on these machines. So just wondering how you protect it all.
Sure. Good question. So how do we solve the full disk encryption? So the permanent answer is, you know, we went with you know, devices that had keyboards in them.
Sorry.
We went with devices that had keyboards.
Hardware keyboards?
Yeah, yeah. So the devices I'm talking about here are the you know, like the Helix. It's got a keyboard on it, so you can use the full disk encryption, have, you know, and enter the passcode pre-boot authentication, not a problem. So that's kind of the permanent one. In terms of you know, remote kill, all that kind of stuff, I'm, you know, not 100% up on all the features we use with the full disk encryption products we have, but I believe we've got those capabilities for sure. Well, yeah, they're encrypted, so it'll be kind of hard for anyone to get into them. So, but you can't even boot into Windows without it. So, I don't have a lot of the specific details around all that, but sorry, I didn't really answer your question. But the main problem around the keyboard was we sought devices that had a keyboard. So. Yep. Any other questions? All right, well, thanks guys, really appreciate it.